Conciencia Radio. Periodismo e investigación. Porque la información tiene valor.
This is a CR News Planet 7X update. Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Backman, coming to you directly from somewhere in the southern land of Mexico, south of the border. This is a very important interview today that we're going to present with biblical researcher and also Planet X researcher. Planet 7X is the key word here. GILL BROUSSARD. GILL Broussard. He's on the line with me directly from Cajun land over there in Louisiana, and he is ready and able. We've been trying to do this interview for the past couple of weeks, but time has not allowed us to do it, or the weather has not allowed us to do it, or whatever. But now God is allowing us to do it. Today is Sabbath. Today is December 9th, 2017 of our Lord Jesus Christ, and I'm very happy to have GILL Broussard on the line right now with me. So let's go directly with him so we can talk Planet 7X, what updates he has, and anything that has to do with Planet X that is very important that you be privy to right now. So let's go directly with him. Hi, Gil. Welcome to the interview.
Well, thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure being here with you.
Well, you're coming in loud and clear. What's the latest update on Planet 7X? I mean, your model has been changed a little bit in order to pinpoint a possible incoming date of this space body that evidently does exist, because we know science tells us it exists through and due to the perturbation of the planets.
Yes, and the Earth is showing physical effects of that also indicate that we have a inbound planet as well. So, yes, the biblical text says that we're looking for a day in the March-April night skies, which is mid of night, that the moon will be at the foot of Virgo. Now, the other half has to appear as well for it to be the actual sign. But we first look for the top half of this sign to see when to start looking. We know where to look now for it to be approaching. It will come out as Sagittarius and then eventually be seen when it makes its round around the sun. In the tail of it will be pointing towards Virgo. Well, they had 2 days in the past, which was two particular years where that occurred, was 2016 and 2017. That was a Sabbath and a Jubilee that gave us great concern, as I stated. Well, there's 2 more now in the future that we need to take a look at. 2020 and 2021 is when the moon again is at the foot of Virgo with a 12-hour delay you calculate in Earth's rotation. So it gives us great concerns that those years we need to pay attention to.
So we're paying attention to a period from here to the year 2021 where based on the biblical research that you have done, you're trying to coalesce this and juxtapose it into a comprehensive, cohesive model where we can at least have a better idea of the incoming of Planet X through our solar system. Now, many of the people are asking, due to all the confusion, as always, with the people that still push the agenda that Nibiru is Planet X, when we know your research is totally diametrically opposite to what they're pushing in their agenda in order to confuse the masses on the internet. And therefore people get to a point where they don't believe anymore what's being said about Planet X. So we just want to put that out there, that this interview focuses solely on biblical research, bringing the Planet 7X model that GILL Broussard has presented stellarly through his slides and graphics, which you can download free, by the way, at planet7x.net. Right, Gil?
Correct. The information is free for you. Go back and read your Bible and see that these stories in the Bible are not accidents. They're giving us data points to understand the last book of the Bible, which is the book of Revelation. And keep in mind, before this planet shows up, Revelation shows the order. They're numbered on what to expect. Well, CO3, 4, and 5 has to happen before the arrival of this planet. CO3 is economic upheaval. That's probably might be associated heavily with a currency war as well as a trading war, which will probably end up leading to a physical war, which is CO4. Okay, now CO4 greatly concerns me because it makes a statement that a quarter of the world population shall die during that war. Well, around 7 billion people, a quarter is a significant number. Unless this may be interpreted as under the threat of death, which could be easily misinterpreted, but time will tell which way it's going to be. But it greatly concerns me that after the economic problems we see, that we may be in a situation where we see a major war, then a peace agreement. And then after that peace agreement is when we are expecting the arrival of this planet.
Okay, so after the peace agreement, which things are really, ramping up around Israel and the Middle East as we speak. I mean, the United States just announced that Jerusalem is the de facto capital since 1949, basically, of the Jewish state. And now all of the enemies of Israel are really up in angst about this. You know, days of rage and protests all around the world and the Middle East, being obviously brought up in fulfillment with biblical prophecy, because now we have Iran, encircling Israel up in the Golan, and we have all these things, aligning perfectly with biblical prophecy, with the Psalm 83 war.
Yeah, and the biblical text clearly states, after Israel is reborn in a day, that generation, basically the Holocaust generation, shall not die out before all is fulfilled. Now that means to the end of the Great Tribulation, where the rapture happens.
Right.
So the planet comes at the beginning of the Great Tribulation. 3.5 years later is at the end of that is where all believers are taken up into heaven. Not to be mixed up with a remnant that's brought to the wilderness for a period of 3.5 years. There are two different taken ways, and they are defined completely different. And that's factually stated in that manner. Go back and read it. And what you've been told and what is written are two different things. Go back and read it carefully. And you see that there's two taking aways. One is to the wilderness and one is to heaven.
Okay, now based on that, those two taking aways, which we have, I'm trying to put that up on the screen here. I'm having some technical issues here trying to get the correct file up and running. Let me see what I can do here. But basically, to put it up on the screen, you can download the slides and complement this while you listen to this interview over again. But the most important thing here, when we talk about the taking away, is that there are two taking aways, right? According to what we have in the Bible.
Sure. That would be slide 34.
Okay, let me. Yeah.
And you better see that. It'll give you the references that are difference between the two.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, slide 34.
All right.
Okay, there we go. Now let me put that up on the screen so everybody can see it. Now here's the thing. It's not loading that one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it on my screen here. No, it did not change it, so I have to close that one. Yeah, okay, there it is. Got it. Okay, ready.
All right.
Okay.
So you can just go through the qualifiers on taking away one. The first taking away is during Passover. The second taking away is during the last trump. Okay, that's when the rapture happens. That's a September event.
Okay.
Okay? The first taking away, Yeshua comes mid of night. Well, the meteor shower is during the daytime. That's on the other half of the earth. That's mid of night. Okay? And keep in mind, he says 3.5 years is what's going to separate the two. Between the two, 3.5 years, exactly.
So a little bit after the Antichrist comes to power, there's going to be this first taking away, most probably, right?
To the wilderness, correct, because
Right.
they have to be placed in on the night of the meteor shower on the opposite side of Earth. That's why it's a private meeting. Once Earth starts to enter the plasma tail of this comet, all generators globally have to be turned off. Well, that means radio and TV are off also. So it's a private meeting with Elijah and Moses on Passover with oil lamps, because LED lamps are burned. They were during an EMP wave. They don't work. So there's not enough batteries in the world. So you're burning oil lamps, literally, just as the text says. 3.5 days later, which is just about at the time of the crossing, the meteor shower starts on the opposite side. The armies, the kings, everyone goes underground, asking the rocks to cover them. Yeshua comes and he picks up his bride and his bridemaid, brings them to a place of safety in the wilderness, and it's called a remnant. Okay, so that's a private meeting again. So the TV crews and radio crews are not announcing any of that because they're on the ground. They're scared. And the same thing happening to the first one. They don't have any power, electrical power to give this. This is all private meetings. You have to be at the right place at the right time. And he says to be in Jerusalem. These rehearsal patterns, which are called mekraz in Hebrew, they're not feasts. They're rehearsal patterns. Within a rehearsal pattern, you can have a feast, but don't define them as feasts. They are dry rehearsals. The rehearsal pattern for taking away one is Passover and unleavened bread. The second taking away is the rapture. That's the last trump. You can be anywhere in the world for the last one. All believers globally are taking up. You see?
Okay,
The
so
first, the
yeah,
first
go
one
ahead.
mentions only a remnant. You see, the first one mentions only a remnant.
Okay, so now we have a remnant, and then all believers are taking away. That's when the 144,000, literally from the 12 tribes, are going to be within the Great Tribulation preaching the word of Jesus. Now, based on the studies that I've been doing, these 144,000 that are perfect, that have not been corrupted, are messianic Jews, right? That convert to Christianity, and they are pristine and perfect, and they are preaching the word of Jesus. Is that correct?
Not quite. Remember,
Okay.
Jews are one tribe.
Right.
It mentions all 12 tribes except for Dan. Dan is not mentioned. And yes, they have to believe in the Messiah and the Father. That is one of the qualifiers, okay? But then don't forget the bridemaid. The bridemaid are 10 times that amount. So you're looking at about 1.5 million. That adds up to the bridemaid. That's the smallest number between the two, 144,000, and so you're looking at about almost about 1.5 million. On the larger side, if you were to multiply 3.5 times that for family members, you might get up to 5 million. So somewhere between 1.5 to 5 million is the remnant. Didn't say all believers, say remnant. That makes it to the place of safety. And those are the ones who follow his rehearsal patterns, as he stated them to be. See, these are not vain religious acts. He's getting you prepared for a major event in the future and to be at the right place at the right time, because that point where Jerusalem will have the least effects. Earth is going to tilt. Earth will stop on its rotation. It's on the safe side. It's on the mid of night, remember? Backside is not hit in March or April. The daylight side is hit. That's after a 12-hour delay in Earth rotation. If you're there and you're chosen, as he says, he's the one that does the choosing, you get to be brought to a place of safety in the wilderness. It's called the greater exodus in the Bible. Well, when you use greater, that means there's a lesser. The lesser one was out of Egypt. This one is called the greater exodus. And it says it's for the end days.
Okay, excellent. Now, you said that the Earth's rotation would stop. Now, based on this, I have the slide up on the screen. If the Earth stood still, it's curious that last week, scientists mentioned that the Earth was going to start to slow down in 2018 its rotation just by milliseconds, and that would create bigger earthquakes than normal. It's a cycle, they say, every 4 or 5 years the Earth does this, and that we would be seeing very big earthquake activity. Now, I can just imagine the size and scope of earthquakes when this thing really starts coming closer to us. To point that out and for people to understand, one of the bigger questions is, where do you think in your model right now, Gil, that this planet 7X is right now? So I could pull up the other PDF file that we got ready in order for people to understand, or where to look in the northern hemisphere, where it's going to be coming from, because I don't want to repeat it, but people need to know. So they need to look in the northern hemisphere. Is that correct?
No, on the ecliptic. Anywhere from the southern or northern hemisphere, you can see the ecliptic.
No, I'm sorry. No. Northern or southern hemisphere. No, my mistake. It's just that the slide that I have here, I was looking where to look in the northern hemisphere. No, but yeah, it doesn't matter where you are on the planet. You could see it just as long as you look in the correct direction. Is that correct?
Right. Let me see. What slide are you looking at?
I'm looking at the other file that says, no, the slides compendium. I'm on slide 33. Yeah, slide 33. You got it there? Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I have it.
Now,
okay.
It says that's the area where people have to search for Planet X, 7X, as it's coming in between Capricorn and Sagittarius on the ecliptic.
Right. It's a thin line. If you draw a line through the center of the sun, through the center of Earth, and project it outwards, that's the planetary plane of Earth. For Earth to have a double meteor shower like mentioned in the past and the present, which is the book of Revelation, the meteor showers are 5 months apart. In modern time, it's 152 and 1/8 day. The object the math doesn't allow it to be off the ecliptic, because the fixed point for it pivoting is the center of the sun. So you have 3 fixed points. So the entry coming in towards Earth comes out of Sagittarius, and then when it's leaving, it's going towards Virgo, outward. So we have to look where it's coming in from. That's Sagittarius. This is the same region of space where NASA sent the Pioneer and Voyager probes. This is the same region of place where white paper reports show the orbits of comets are perturbed by an unknown object with gravity. This is also where the Chinese records in 1054, 960 years ago, they saw an object for 26 months. Remember, they didn't have a telescope yet. This is naked eye observation. It has to be a planet-sized object to see it for that long a period of time, coming in and out. This is the same era. There's 88 constellations. Why is all the data, all the white paper reports, and the biblical accounts, and where NASA sent the Pioneer and Voyager probes, and where perturbations are stated, only landing in one constellation out of 88? Either there is no collusion between people who never met each other, living hundreds of years apart. How can that be? That they colluded to have the same lie? It's not. It's the same object coming out from the same area of space multiple times, roughly every 360 years or so. And this is where NASA got confirmation of it in 1992. They went silent after that. And this is where we need to look for it to come in from. And the Bible alludes that we'll have a short notice. That's not practical in normal situation with modern day telescopes of just amateur astronomers. This object is roughly twice as large as Neptune, either equal to or twice as large as Neptune. An amateur astronomer should be able to see it and take photos of it. But that's not what we have. There's no sighting in the public realm at this time. Only way that can happen is if it's cloaked. Because think of it like a forest fire. We see the smoke, we feel the heat, but we can't see the flames. So do you have a forest fire? Well, some people in California would say yes to that because they just went through that. On the back side of the hill, they could feel the warm air, they could see the smoke, but they couldn't see the flames yet. By the time the flames were on them, it was overtaking them. The Bible alludes that you have a short warning period for this inbound planet. And we have, and keep in mind, people say that the people who believe in Planet X are out of their mind. Well, let me tell you something. Even if you were to have all the people of the world out of their mind, they cannot manifest physical effects of the Earth and of objects in space. We have the physical effects of Earth's magnetic field. Our magnetic poles are altered. It's moving 12 times its normal rate, going towards the geographic north. The geographic north is tilted an extra 4 degrees only in the summertime. Around July 6th and 9th, it's at the maximum tilt of 4 degrees. And guess what that tilt is? Right there at that date in time is the closest position that Earth is to south of the universe, Sagittarius.
Exactly.
So why is the maximum effect when Earth is even with the approaching planet? These are physical effects that cannot be manifested by someone's belief. They can only occur when you have a magnetic field from another planet affecting another planet's magnetic field. And that's what we're seeing. We see the orbits of comets warped. We see the orbits of asteroids that are warped. That's why the frequency of asteroids entering our atmosphere has jumped up considerably, because their orbits have been warped or perturbations or perturbed, where now they're crossing Earth's path. And Earth is running into these objects. And that's why you see a large increase in them. These are done by magnetic fields, interference. So and you have to have a large body to do that.
Absolutely. So this is applied to stellar mechanics, planetary laws of motion. Kepler developed them and validated them. I mean, it's just clear as day that anybody can see that. They cannot dispel the fact that all these comets are coming in and then doing all these weird things, because now all of a sudden 2012, 2013, 14, and so on, all these comets started coming in. Oh, guess what? We just discovered all these new comets out of nowhere. Well, it's obviously because something is pushing them our way.
Well, asteroids, most of the asteroids are already known orbits. But some of the known ones that used to miss us are now hitting us.
Yeah, exactly. Or because coming very close to us, yeah.
Their orbits are perturbed by unknown gravity. One of the things I'm trying to do with some amateur astronomers is us to do some parallaxing to test the position of Earth, if Earth's orbital path is warped. Because if Earth is tilted at maximum tilt in July 9th, then our orbital path should be tilted at that maximum point, July 9th. So if you go 90 degrees opposite and pick a date on the calendar that's 90 degrees from that point in space, and check a given star, with simple trig, you should be able to tell whether or not Earth's orbit is severely warped or not. And if it is, then the question is, science is cause and effect. You documented an effect. Now you have to ask, what is the cause? Well, we have too many effects here on Earth. There's only one common denominator that points to, and that's an inbound planet.
Well, because the logic would be, okay, if we have right now, if we have balance in the solar system, we wouldn't have these perturbations if there was balance in the solar system. There's not a perfect balance when you have an external factor modifying that balance that's already in the celestial spheres. Now, as we see these perturbations or anomalies, we could also apply them as such, then we can really start, just saying, well, why did they send out the Pioneer probes in the first place? Well, obviously because they want to triangulate the object in deep space in order for them to track it with their 60 or some observatory points, because they have observatories all over the world, namely controlled by the Jesuits in the Vatican. We know that, and we know that NASA is working in tandem with the power elite worldwide. I mean, it's not just an American thing. This is worldwide. There's the people in the power that be, they have complete knowledge of how this thing is coming in. That's why they're preparing, and they can do whatever they want in order to accelerate or decelerate the collapse of human civilization. It's already happening as we speak. The weather is out of whack. The earthquakes are on the rise. Volcanoes are, starting again. And we know this is a cycle. But as the cycle perturbs us, and the model begins to move more into a more understanding dateline for you, because you've been maturing your model. And the model states that in this case, 2021 is more or less a date that you might believe that this thing is incoming.
There's two dates that the moon is at the foot of Virgo, 2020 and 2021 for March, April. All I'm saying, it greatly concerns me. I cannot say definitely unless we have a sighting. There is no sighting. In other words, the Bible tells you to be a watchman on the wall. I'm pointing you to the data, what we have existing. I'm pointing you where to look and what to look for. This is mentioned that he said he'll give you a sign in the sky before his return. Now we know what to look for.
Okay, now that we have the sign in the sky and we know where to look for, I have a slide here which is the estimate for 2021. It says November 28, 2017. And it says Planet 7X estimated precision for November 28th. This was like a week ago. If it were to arrive in the year 2021 in March or April. So it has to be Passover. It has to be fulfilling with the Mekrach, or the dates, right?
What page are you on?
Page 3 of the other PDF file.
Okay.
Yeah, do you see it?
Yeah, it says November 28, 2017.
Right, that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, that's the model. For it to arrive on March, April, a rough Passover, which is 3.5 days after Passover, on 2020, this would put the location on where it's at on that day, November 28. Remember, it doesn't come into view from the naked eye observation till it reaches the orbit of Ceres. That's just outside of, that's halfway between Mars and Jupiter, roughly. That's where the naked eye observation can see it. Remember, this is not going to be seen normally because the Bible already clearly tells you. It comes on you very swiftly.
Yeah, it's
Okay?
gonna be a surprise, like a thief in the night and whatever. It's just gonna
Right.
come out of nowhere, and then it's gonna ignite. Now, in which part of the orbit? I mean, right now you pinpoint it more or less between Saturn and Jupiter. Is that correct?
No, it's on just outside of Saturn right now. If you look at the
Okay.
picture
Okay.
closely.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Uh, Again, we're getting astronomers when this thing gets even with Saturn. I think maybe sometime in February, possibly. I'd have to go back and check my model. We're looking to see what perturbations it may cause on the moons of Saturn. You see, and
Okay.
then as it gets closer to Jupiter, we'll have the same effect. Jupiter would be close to it also, and we'll start looking at the moons of Jupiter at a certain given time. Let's see if I can find Jupiter here.
Okay, I have the solar system here in a model where people can clearly see
Okay,
Saturn and Jupiter.
page 7 shows you the date that the object should line up with Saturn's orbit, which is
Okay.
July 12th, 2018.
Okay, got it.
So
Okay, so yeah, we see it here. Okay, it marks an X right there where it would pass through Saturn's orbit on the ecliptic, more or less March 30th, 2021. And go ahead.
and keep in mind, from the viewpoint of Earth right there, that's Sagittarius on the ecliptic. So that's if you view it from Earth, but solar system looking downward. All the information is to the left for astronomers to use.
Okay,
This is where
I advanced the software, our solar system software, so we can see that exact date based on what we're looking at right now. And in order to understand, let me take off the comets and the constellation. I'm going to leave that there. Okay, ready. So I'm on the date 30th of March 2021 towards Saturn, and where it should be coming from, so people can have a better idea.
And the
And
reason why
it's
I'm
perfect.
giving
Yeah.
the reason why I'm mainly giving this information out is if they do have the ability to cloak the planet, they don't have the ability to falsify the location of the moons of Saturn, because they'd have to project a new image and hide the old one or something like, which they can't. So look for perturbations or perturbations in the orbits of moon of Saturn on those days right there. And then
Excellent.
The next point we would be looking at is when it lines up with Jupiter, which you can go to page 9.
Okay.
That's
Changing
February 27th, 2020.
Okay, let me run up the slide. Hold on. Okay, got it.
So then we would be looking at the orbits of the moons of Jupiter to be severely have perturbations. Remember, it would be a left movement. It would be the planets orbits would be stretched to the left towards it, and it would be, since it's that close, it would be quite severe. So it's very easy to determine that with the proper telescope. You get you a eyepiece that has like a crosshair, like a rifle scope,
Okay.
and you practice you set up your telescope, and you pre-test it on stars and other planets all the way to the horizons. That way you have it very well set, and where when you tell it to track to a star, that those stars are right in center of that X. So whenever you punch in where's Jupiter, it should be right smack dab in the center. And if it's not, something's perturbing it. Or if you go to the moon of Jupiter, if that moon is to the right or to the left or up or down, something's perturbed it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
this would overcome any cloaking mechanism on the calcs. Why would you have a pull to the left when they're saying it's outside our solar system? That pull would be backwards. It would be pulling it towards Neptune. In other words, towards the edge of the universe, or the edge of our solar system. So
in layman's terms, there has to be perturbations in either the moons of Jupiter and Saturn as it comes on the ecliptic through the ecliptic plane into perihelion before it enters the inner orbits, and through parallaxing, which is something used in astronomy. Anybody who can coordinate this with astronomers from one date. What's the starting date for the parallaxing that you propose?
I don't have that in front of me. It would be.
I think it's July.
Yeah, we would. July 9th is where we think the maximum warpage is of Earth's path, because that's where the tilt is maximum warped of Earth. So I think they will go hand in hand. So we take 4 coordinates on Earth's orbital path, which is using that as one of them.
Mm-hmm.
North, south, east, and west, and using a star to base this off of, and then you do simple trig calculations using trigs. You're just using millions of miles, but still, if it shows that Earth's orbit is warped severe, remember at midnight on all of those points, the sun is directly behind you. So if the Earth's orbit is stretched to one side, your numbers are going to indicate that when you pick the same time frame to do the calcs. So
those two, there's 2 dates, 1 year in distance, where anybody could do parallaxing in order to get the possible perturbations documented.
It takes a year to do the parallaxing. It takes a year.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pick a point that are opposite and as well as 90 degrees from July 9th on those 4 points, and do the calculations. It takes a year to prove that out. But we'll also be looking at perturbations on the moons of Saturn and Jupiter. And so this would overcome any cloaking that they're doing. You have physical effects that they can't overcome.
So I have July 9th, 2018. I got Saturn right smack dab in Sagittarius, and that's the starting point for a year in order to do the parallaxing, in order to start measuring any possible perturbations on the moons of Saturn, or Saturn itself, of however minor they might be. They could be indicative and serve as evidence, astronomical evidence, that this thing is coming.
That's what we need to do. We need to look at outside evidence.
Excellent.
Because look, you're looking at a 90-degree shift, to the left. Okay, so that tells you where's the object pulling from, to the left. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's in a deep space from you, because remember, all the other white paper studies showed that the orbits, when it was in deep space, that the orbits of comets were being warped only in Sagittarius, up, down, left, right. But now with Jupiter, if we see it only pulling to the left, that means there's an orbit right there. That's we have a problem, chances are, because there's too many effects that Earth is going through that simulates an approaching planet. Your magnetic field doesn't get up one day and change all of a sudden within and move at 12 times its normal rate. Neither does the tilt of Earth change another 4 degrees in the summertime when it gets even with Sagittarius. There's something wrong. There's something coming out of Sagittarius. And for it to affect Earth, that means it's close. It's not outside our solar system. You cannot have those effects on Earth if it's outside our solar system. No.
Well, something that's very interesting that I might throw at you right now, Gil, is the fact that also Sagittarius A has been pulsating, towards us. That star has been pulsing and pulsing and pulsing, and they even say that it's even affecting the flares coming out of Sagittarius A are affecting inclusively our planet. So could that be the case, that it's also affecting multiple things are affecting us, not only the influence of Planet 7X?
If this thing's emitting pulses of some type, yes, it will affect us. It will affect our planet. But where they're indicating the pulses are coming from deep space in another galaxy, it's too far to affect us. So yes, we are having effects, but no, it's not that far out.
But could it be a cover-up? Could it be like a cover-up, like to make people believe, oh look, we found this massive anomaly on Sagittarius A, and this star Alpha, Sagittarius Alpha, is emitting all these pulsations, and that's why we're being affected, when in reality it's Planet X in the first place.
That's exactly correct.
No, that's what I wanted to mention, because these people are so smart, that they try to grab anything in astronomy and make it look like something else in order to make people believe that this is what's really going on, when in reality they're obfuscating the facts of something else coming down the line.
The government is very slick on their studies. They'll put money out saying, we want a study to prove that gravity from another galaxy in this location is affecting Earth. Would you do a study? When you throw that amount of money on the table, they'll come up with anything for you. Okay? So the government is quite skilled in getting what they want on a study, whether it's truth or not. You don't put parameters in there for the results. Okay? If you want to do a study, do an open study. Say, where are we being affected from? But that's not what they do. They pinpoint it for you. Now, write us a study to that, effect.
Well, there you go. So they have all this evidence, pointing towards the Sagittarius, and now, curiously, Sagittarius A is now the big enemy of us, when in reality something else is going down the line. So parallaxing would be the only thing right now in astronomy that you are inviting astronomers around the world, amateur astronomers, to really start, teaming up and start doing some parallaxing starting on July 9th, 2018. And from there, start pinpointing a year later exactly the perturbations that might be happening on any of the moons of Saturn, which is way out there still, but it's still incoming. And as it passes Saturn, it'll reach Jupiter. After it reaches Jupiter, what effects do you start, predicting will start happening for us? Will things start increasing? I mean, earthquake-wise, and volcanoes will start increasing even more? The eruptions?
Well, what we've seen is a slight delay in the frequency of earthquakes at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That is a combination of not as many being reported that have occurred, as well as a lesser amount of them that's happening. But don't let that fool you. That's common. That when the crust starts to slide, when it hits a rough point, that it'll hold up. It'll stay quiet until it builds up enough strength to push past that blockage. Okay. Now, what we are seeing that tells us that, because your volcano activity has picked up. So that means there's stress on the lava flows that's occurred from these quakes that are building up until it can. So you expect bigger quakes in the future.
Oh yeah, and there's been perturbations in the nucleus, the core of the planet, as well. The outer core has been moved out of place, some suggest, and in fact, electromagnetics teaches us that everything's electrical, basically, in this magnetic universe as well, and how this is going to be playing out as it comes in and affects our sun. I mean, magnetically, it's already pulling and tugging at various planetary bodies within the system. And, you know, logic tells us as it comes in, it's going to start fighting for polarity control of our northern, of our North Pole. So our magnetism is going haywire. Do you think it's also because of that?
I think some of those studies are flawed because they don't put into, they're not aware of the data of this planet coming in for the effects. Let's say Earth's magnetic field is warped, which it is, because of this area, because Earth is tilted more during the July 6th or 9th towards this object. Okay? Yes, the magnetic, but is it the core that moves? No. It's the attraction from this planet that's causing it.
Okay.
So they are stating an actual effect, but for the wrong reasons, because they don't have all the data. You're going to have to join more than one science together. So the study of the inner core with astronomy. Then you get the correct cause and effect. But we have a problem. There's too many white paper studies. If you combine them, it directly points to an inbound planet, because those are exactly the effects that we would expect. You can't.
Yeah. No,
you know?
I mean, no, we understand that. I mean, I think we're way past that. I think the audience needs to mature to the idea that this thing is still out there. They've done an excellent counter campaign to ridicule the idea and the notion of the existence of this planetary body, planet, comet, whatever you want to call it, but it's coming. And because the mathematics tell us so. I mean, the perturbations are very clear. It's out there. It's coming in at whatever speed it's coming in, but it's coming in. And it's pushing things our way. Now, as the things get pushed our way, it'll fulfill, biblical prophecy. We know there will be a great earthquake at the start of the tribulation. Now, this great earthquake, Richter-wise, would be a massive event, or do you think it'll be multiple sevens at the same time around the world?
It'll be a massive event. It'll probably, let's say, the orbit of Earth is either slowed down, or you're looking at a quake that would possibly, ripple effect around the world, possibly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I had this notion. I said, what if, as the planet starts slowing its rotation, the subduction zones all get locked into place and they all ram into the subduction areas, and then we will have like a transmission of a car, like it's stuck in one speed. And when you park your car down a hill and you don't put the parking brake in and you just let the transmission hold in, and then when you start your car and you want to move the gear into reverse or drive, it bangs the transmission. That'll basically, serve as an example so people can understand in layman's terms of these massive events that will just lock the subduction zones out of place. That could be possible, that we could have multiple earthquakes, let's say within 1 or 2 days, that will be very big in scope, and people or maybe scientists would say, well, we could take this as this huge global quake scenario, but in reality it was multiple 8s or 9s in different places. What do you think about that? That it was maybe felt around the world at the same time, but it wasn't necessarily just one big earthquake. Because, seismology-wise, we would have to pinpoint the epicenter. Where would the epicenter be of such a massive earthquake? Unless it were maybe a 10 Richter quake, but that would only be provoked by something that, fault line that is so large and huge that it would rupture at the same time, like maybe the Cascadia going. I don't know.
Keep in mind that continents are not glued down. They're only held down by gravity. And they float, they move, they shift. The majority of our continents separating apart is caused by this planet when it comes by. That's when it takes the maximum movement on moving the continents apart. Because Earth is still trying to balance itself with the right amount of material on each side. That's why we still have a wobble in its orbit. It's not completely balanced. And so this could be along the lines, possibly. Remember, no one's lived through this yet. That's in modern times.
Right.
This could be more, instead of an epic center, it looked more like a domino effect. One knocks over the next one, the next one, the next one, having a ripple effect around the world as far as a quake going. If there's that much stress on the crust, you may see a shift happen that's just, that's just like dominoes tapping each other. When one goes, the next one goes, the next one. But yeah, it's mentioned that there's a significant quake. For it to put it there, and keep in mind, Revelation talks to the world. So it's got to be a very significant quake. And remember, cause and effect. What's going to cause that? We have, and you mentioned earlier about a propaganda machine. Well, the Bible tells me that they're going to be successful at removing this from
the mindset.
The mindset of the public.
Because it'll come as a thief in the night. It'll be so quick. It'll be a Tuesday afternoon, and suddenly, wham, bam, it's going to happen, right?
He also said a great multitude will fall away. So this is part of the facts that are literally in the Bible. It describes the effects too graphically. It matches the model, and yet they had no laws of orbital mechanics of planets. But yet the model matches the right sequence and everything that you would expect. The double meteor shower, well, guess what? This thing crosses Earth's path twice. That's why you have 2 meteor showers.
That's the 150 days of Revelation 9, right?
Which in modern time might be 152 to 153 days.
Okay.
In modern time. In Noah's time it was 150. But Earth's orbit expanded during Hezekiah. That's when the calendar changed from 365 and a quarter days. And this is not just, and this is not just biblical records. That's every civilization that had calendars within the next 5 years had to change their calendar, because they were, if they're off a week per year, within 4 to 5 years they're off a whole month. Well, they missed the growing season, so they had to change the calendar.
So we've talked about that before. Last time we talked that as we go into the plasma tail of this Planet 7X, planet, comet, whatever, we will be seeing a series of tilting of our planet and also the change in our orbit. So the tilting, there's a slide that we have that about the zero tilt. I have it up on the screen, so people can get a feel of what you're saying here.
There's any page number anywhere?
Yeah, let me go into the PDF file here. Let me see if I can pull it up correctly. Okay. No, hold on. Okay, I'm back to the slides, the other file. Let me see if I can find it here. No, I don't see it, but nonetheless,
okay.
Yeah, I have to pull it up. But as we pull it up, and we talk about, oh, here it is. Okay, the effects. Here it is. The Earth, the Moon, and the wobble. Let me see here, the tilt. There's been a series of measurements that have been done on the planet of how its orbit has been. It's wobble, but I can't see it here in the PDF exactly.
Okay, just so you can go ahead and start describing it.
Yeah, I have the image here, the Earth wobble, and okay, here it is. Let me just put it here on the screen for everybody to see. There it is. I have the wobble there. Planet 7X images. Let me see here. Ah, there it is. That's why it didn't load. There it is. Okay. Okay, I have here on the screen. Let me get your name out of the way. so it doesn't cover the screen. There. Okay, there it is. Here we have the ecliptic plane, and we have from the year 2013 to 2017. As you see the colors here, that's how the Earth has been moving in its orbit and wobbling. And we're talking about the tilt of the planet as it goes in its orbits from 2013 through 2017. The tilt of the planet has been shifting. And could you explain to people this specific slide? It says the months are still out of place, as well as the tilt is less than 2 years ago and still more than 3 years ago. So basically, over the Earth, the North Pole forms a circle when viewed from above the ecliptic. We already understand that. This is the wobble, right? Or precession. And the axis dots on the graph from a circle and shows the year's axis tilt variation. Anyway, a wobble in the axis causes the tilt to vary. So our tilt is varying, and this is due to precisely the perturbations that are being magnetically, we're being pulled towards the south of the universe. Is that correct?
Correct. There's something, keep in mind, in the wintertime, which is the opposite of the hour, Earth is on the back side of the sun. That meant the planet can't affect us. That's why you see a normal wobble on the other side.
Yeah, it's stable, right? It's very stable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's only when it gets a clear view of Earth that it starts drastically affecting. The closer Earth gets to it, the greater the effects. So again, physical data is lining up with white paper reports, scientific papers, as well as the physical where they sent the Pioneer and Voyager probes, and the biblical where the 14 cases in the Bible point to it. Anything more than that, look, that's a mountain of information.
Well, the implication, this is direct evidence. I mean, this is empirical, direct observational evidence. As we can see, the green line, just look at it, towards the south of the universe, our wobble is much more separated or pronounced than from the opposite part of the north of the universe. So you can clearly see here at 160, 200 degrees that we're being sucked or pulled outside of where we should be.
Yeah, physical effects are not manifested simply because people want this to happen.
So this is not an ideological thing like the people that believe the Earth is flat. No,
That's right.
This is absolute empirical scientific data that points to something pulling us. Okay.
Right.
Okay. That's very important to mention, Gil, because some people will still, in spite of you saying that, will still go against you and say, no, this was done maybe somebody with crayons.
Well,
oh no! Wait, it's a conspiracy because Isaac Newton was in on it all along.
Yeah, you can also pull up another study which was done pertaining to the magnetic north.
Okay, which slide is that?
It should show. I don't think it's in any of the slides. You may have it as a separate.
Okay.
It should show like a half a globe with a green line showing all of the points on where the magnetic north was. Well, one of the things is that a magnetic north, and I can also send it to you.
Sure.
A magnetic north is how is a magnetic north affected? Guess what? By another magnetic field. So, question is where is this magnetic field coming from? What is the source of it? Well, all the data is pointing from a source that's coming from the south of the universe. And keep in mind the magnetic north moved very close to the geographic north. And we saw what the geographic north is doing. It's tilting towards the south. So wherever the magnetic north is where the coldest regions are. Well, that meant the coldest regions shifted from northern Canada, now moving to the North Pole. Well, if you measure that amount of, let me say, degree, that's how far your climate zones have shifted. Okay, so you're looking at about 10 to 12, let me say, degrees latitude, let me say, adjustment. So people in northern U.S. are getting the temperature range of, say, Arkansas, and lower Canada, and so upper Canada is getting the temperature of lower Canada, and so on and so on. That's why the magnetic fields are so important. When your magnetic fields change, that changes your jet stream. You change your jet stream, you change your rain patterns, your wind patterns, your weather. This is all associated to a cause and effect. What's causing the magnetic field and the geographic north to change drastically, all of a sudden, within X amount of years? Okay. Why is it moving 12 times its normal rate?
Here I have on the screen, Gil, a series of 18 points that you point out as the list of effects Planet 7X causes to Earth. I'm going to read through them and see what you think. 1, severe earthquakes and volcanic activity increasing in intensity and frequency. That's already happening. 2, Earth receives a 40-day warning of Planet 7X approach. We're not there yet, but the power elite will eventually, we can't hide it anymore. It's coming, right?
Right.
3, Earth nears the plasma tail at 3.5 days away from Planet 7X crossing. Basically, not giving off dates, but this is post 2021, more or less, right?
Well, it could possibly. We have to have a verification. We have to have the sighting.
So we're still waiting for a visual observation of the object itself then.
Yeah, they have to turn off all generators when we get too close to that plasma tail, which is roughly 3.5 days prior to the crossing.
Can you explain why?
Because once we start to get too deep into the plasma tail, it's like Earth being hit with a EMP wave. If you have electronics on at the time of the hit, of a strong EMP,
right?
You burn all of your electronics, your generators, your nuclear power plant. All of that would be fried.
Okay, so we're gonna be hit by multiple EMP strikes from the object, the pulsations that it's gonna generate as it interacts with our electrical field. Okay, Planet 7X will darken the sun and turn the moon. Okay, that's all prophecy. We know that. And then Earth's northern and southern lights will stretch to the equator and will sound like a trumpet. Yeah, because it will compress the atmosphere, and we will listen to sounds being produced by this massive electrical interaction.
When the northern lights are super active, like from a sun flare, people go outside and they listen to it. It hums like a trumpet. Makes sounds.
The auroras make sounds?
Oh yes.
That's amazing. So that would explain also a lot of people saying in the upper latitudes, they say, we heard like this trumpet sound or humming sound. It was probably the auroras, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's during a sun flare, yeah. It takes X amount of minutes or days for it to hit Earth, but depends on how much energy is hitting Earth, depends on the intensity, and the intensity dictates whether or not it makes a sound. So when we go into the tail of this plasma, the whole world will hear it. It will be a world phenomenon that you will hear.
That would be the 6th seal of Revelation, basically.
Could be, yes.
Right, okay. And then the water that's at the equator would be displaced up to the poles.
Yes, there's about 12 miles or so of bulge, and when the Earth stops on its axis, that water is going to start to move towards the North and South Pole. So the further you are north, the more severe the flooding is going to be. Keep in mind, it would take almost a whole week or two for all of the water. We're only talking about Earth stopping maybe 24 hours or so, or something like that. So you're looking at partial flooding, but still flooding. If you have 30 foot of water or 60 foot of water on the coastlines, if you're not ready for that, most of your coastal cities won't function anymore, because if salt water gets into their electrical lines that are buried and cover their power lines and everything in homes, that's you can't go back and salvage that. It's just, you have to rip it all out. So we've already been through that before, so we know something about that.
So we're going to tilt again 26, 28 degrees. That's after the Earth stops, and it will stop and restart spinning. Do you think the spin will be counter rotatory, or will begin spinning in the same way?
We will spin the same direction, but there'll be a jerk when it starts to once it gets out of the stream, there'll be a jerk for it to start. That's when the Mediterranean and some of the oceans globally will slosh a little bit to the east and west.
Okay.
So the Bible talks about the coastline of Israel, and it names 4 or 5 cities. Also, it names this Egyptian delta, all that being flooded and all of those cities destroyed, as well as the Nile delta. So it's very detailed when you look at it.
I mean, all this analysis that you have done, which is massive, of all these years of research, trying to put this all together. I mean, it's just amazing the work you have done, Gil, and our recognition goes to you directly. Recognizing your work, because you've helped a lot, not only the body of Christ, you've helped put the Bible in perspective for everybody in these end times, to understand that these things, these forces that only God can control, only God knows how this thing is going to be affecting us. And it's in the Bible. That's the most incredible thing of everything, that when we put science and the Bible together, we can come with a very understandable view. How scary it may be for many people to understand that these things are massive in scope. When we talk about stopping a planet the size of ours at the speed it's spinning at in less than 24 hours, I guarantee you that a lot of buildings are going to be tumbling. And by that time, I don't think the internet's going to be working that well. Do you?
Not at all. Now, what's quite interesting, remember the book of Revelation was written 2,000 years ago. Now, this planet passed 5 other times, and then the 6th one would be Revelation. But the book of Revelation says only that it said the most significant time in all of Earth's history will be the one after Israel is reformed in a day. That generation will not die out before all is fulfilled. And then it's during that generation is when the planet will pass, which is the last 3.5 years of that event, and it'll be mid of night Jerusalem. Now that's to the hour, to the year, to the century. Man can't predict that.
No, it's obviously preordained, predestined from beyond, outside time and space. This is outside time and space. God is not even in this time sphere.
That is correct.
Now, as this happens, because this is so important, when we try to pinpoint one generation, we have to go back to Psalm 90, verse 10 and so on, where it says that in its generations, it would be 70 years, the generation of inclusively man, Israel, 70 years, 80 when it's most robust, and then we fly. The question being here is, when do you pinpoint the 70 years of Israel? Do you pinpoint it this year, next year? 2018 is going to be 70 years since the creation of the state of Israel in modern times. Do you think it's these 70 years and towards the 80 years, the next 10 years, where we basically will be, smack dab inside the Great Tribulation now?
I think they're both 70 and 80. Depends whether or not you look at their birth or do you look at their bar mitzvah. There's 12 years difference between that.
Okay.
And two, to find out the year, I actually go back. Remember, this is called Jacob's trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go read the story of Jacob. Well, he was given a blessing on a Sabbath year, okay, which was that he would be greater than his brother, Esau. So that is equivalent to our 2001 year when Esau declared war against Jacob. Jacob's trouble began. That was a Sabbath year. Now he had to work 7 years that landed on another Sabbath year before he got married to his first wife. He was tricked, knew nothing about her. Well, the world had a world leader they knew nothing about. Okay? And they were tricked. It was rigged. Now we have another 7 years. Now we have someone who wants to drain the swamp as a world leader. He's helping other world countries get rid of their corruption as well. Then Jacob worked for free the following year. Well, that's a jubilee. When he worked for free, he didn't take payment on a jubilee. Then there was X amount of years that he gathered the spotted sheep and the spotted goats as his own. He struck a deal with his father-in-law. Doesn't say how many years there was, but you can calculate that because as he went to leave with all of his sheep and goats and camels and everything, his father-in-law chased him down to bring him back, and he says, "I worked for you for 20 years." Well, from 2021, 20 years lands you on 2021. And this was just when he went to the River Jordan, and he split his family unit into two groups. He put his favorite in a separate group than the other group. The favorites went into a place of safety, where the other group went into a place of risk. The other group went in to head on to go meet Esau head on, either offer him peace or be prepared for war. This is going to happen again with Jacob. Jacob is going to be split into two. A remnant will go into the wilderness, place of safety, while the rest of the remnant does battle with with Esau.
So it's the same model repeated over again, because the from the Old Testament it was foreshadowing of what was going to happen then, because God's models are perfect.
There's a foreshadowing in every story if you know how to apply it to the last book, and that's why it's not. These stories are not random. This is choreographed by the Creator Himself.
I have your napkin right in front of me on the screen since you've been talking about this. And you put on this napkin since the start of Jacob's trouble in 2001. And this was recognized by the state of Israel. That was an official statement by Israel, that they believe that Jacob's trouble started in 2001. So,
correct. I think you should have a drawing that represents that a lot better. Let's see if I can find it.
Okay. Just tell me which one it is, and it's probably not in that PDF, but I do have all the images here on my screen in front of me, and I could just put that up for everybody to see in concordance with what you're speaking about, Jacob's trouble. But this is so important because it pinpoints the events that we are now we are entering. We can't say about to enter because we're already basically already feeling now the events gaining momentum, let's call it, and everything is around Jerusalem, not only Israel but Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the epicenter of all this, and it's a timepiece for God to use Jerusalem in order to as a clock, okay, and that clock will serve for everybody who is well versed in the apocalypse, which is the Greek name Apocalypsis for the book of Revelation. The letter that Jesus Christ wrote to the seven churches, which brings full revelation to the Apostle John, John the Divine, who in turn writes everything that he saw with regard to the end of days. Now, are you ready? Because, yeah, go ahead.
I sent you the file as well as on the book, on the large book. It's page 71. There's a small picture of it in the bottom right corner on the Planet 7X book.
Okay, I have two files here that you just sent me. Both of them?
Yeah, one of them was the magnetic north, and the other one was the file.
Okay, now let me bring it up on the screen. Oh, I just opened it on the screen. It's perfect. There. That's of the magnetic anomaly. The northern magnetic is moving. It's shifting out of place very quickly.
It moved 12 times its normal rate all the way up to the North Pole. They mistakenly say that, oh, it's going all the way to Russia.
Uh-huh.
Well, no, it's meeting the point of the spin where it needs to be. It's going to be stopping within approximation of the geographic north.
Okay, and the other slide, I have it here. Okay, I've never seen that one before, which is very interesting. I have it up on the screen. It says the witnesses appear. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, remember the witnesses, they prophesied 1,260 days.
Right.
Well, the root word for prophesize is to profess, to speak. Then they're dead for 3.5 days at the end of that, before the rapture happened. Well, that meant if they're dead, they're not prophesizing.
Okay.
So how many days are there on earth? You got to add 3.5 days to the prophets to know from the time they show up to the time they're raptured, how many days that is.
3.5.
Well,
yeah.
Remember, one is the last trump, which is September, and the other one is Passover. Well, from Passover, this tells us that the event of the planet crossing Earth's path at mid of night is 3.5 days separation between Passover and the return of the Messiah. If you do the math.
This is amazing. So this timeline is unique. The one that this is the one that you pass from the napkin post 3.5 days later, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is after the two witnesses appear after Passover. Well, in Passover in Jerusalem, and then the beast, the Antichrist, kills them off. All right, and that's yeah. Go ahead.
You see, the remnant that's in the wilderness are only there for 1,260 days before they're raptured. So there's a 3.5 day difference between the people in the wilderness and how many days they prophesied, the two prophets. Because you have to take into account the 3.5 days that they're dead before they're raptured. So that means before they go into the wilderness has to be 3.5 days. And that happens to be where Passover is, where they meet the two prophets. So.
Okay. So this would be the first taking away? Okay, got it. Yeah. First taking away, and a remnant living from Jerusalem. That's the people that understand the calling, and they go there and are taken away. Is that correct? Along with the witnesses.
Right. The taken away in the wilderness is without the witnesses.
Got it.
It's Yeshua comes along. The witnesses may go for a little while, maybe, but they come back because they're prophesying in Jerusalem.
For a time after,
1,260 days.
Right.
So this is why the army of the Antichrist stopped, is when the two witnesses are lying dead and they're celebrating. So they don't finish off that remnant of Jews and Christians in the Negev desert.
Oh, and they don't even give them due burial or anything. They just leave them there lying in the street, which is a terrible offense, you know. Mm-hmm.
And so they will be resurrected as part of the dead. The dead are first, and then the living. Then the group that's in the Negev desert will go up. They're the guests to the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Then the bridemaid goes in, and then the bride.
Amen to that. Okay, this is very clear and simple. Now anybody can understand that. Where can they get your slides so they can understand this and study it further in their congregations, wherever they feel so led?
Well, all of these slides are in the book. You can go to planet7x.net, and then you just click on whichever one you want, Google or Dropbox, and you can download the PDF for free.
Okay, I'm going to your website right now so people can see it. I'm on your website. It's on the screen. And go to planet7x.net. Please support Gill's work. Acquire the DVDs. They are so important. And go to the charts. The charts section. It says pre-order the DVD. They can pre-order it now. The new DVD that you're coming out with?
I give presentations on YouTube for free, walking through each one of those charts. They're about 3 hours long.
So that's if they go to your YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/planet7x.
Right. One of the DVDs we're offering is the slides, in case people don't have the internet, in case they want to slow it down and break it down, because we should have each chapter for each slide separated to where you can go to each particular side and hear me speak about one particular subject. So that's the way the CD is going to be on the one that says charts.
Oh, okay. So, it's a new CD with all the slides being explained inside itself, right? It's like a navigatable study resource, right? Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to have it. We're talking to them about them converting it into 5 or 6 languages. We don't know what that's going to cost yet. That way, people can see it or listen to it in their own language. Because I know that it's hard to understand. If English is not your native language, it might be misinterpreted or whatever, what I'm trying to say. Because like I said it greatly concerns me in the past. I have to give estimates on when the moon is at the foot of Virgo, when those days are. It's left up to us to watch.
It just happened. Let's get into that just real quickly, because everybody's getting blasted in the Christian community. Oh, look, the alignment happened, but nothing happened. It's just that people want, they want the trumpets to sound, and they want chaos and destruction and the apocalypse coming upon planet Earth exactly on the day of the alignment. Obviously, it's not like that, but it's a sign nonetheless. Correct?
Well, that was a September event. That's the wrong months. You're looking at the daytime skies. That's how the occult views the zodiac, is the daytime skies.
So it should be in the night, so we can all see it. Mm-hmm.
Because the Messiah returns mid of night. At the same time you're waiting for the Messiah to return, the tail of this comet is going to illuminate only Virgo, not all of the constellations. This is what the software is showing us. It's a unique. Remember, that's when Elijah came prior to that, saying he has to announce the Messiah is coming. He comes there at Passover. 3.5 days later is when the Messiah shows up. This is not the rapture like the last event, which is in a September event. They're missing that there's 2 taking aways. Because Elijah and them do not show up at the beginning, because they die on that day. They're dead when they're raptured. You see?
Absolutely.
Remember it said all of the dead are raptured. Well, if you already had a rapture, then how can the 2 prophets die, and who did they bring in with them if they died 3.5 years later?
Well, it's simple logic. They can't.
That's right.
There has to be a second event.
And it's always been known that they will appear during Passover. So how does this fit in Christian theology? Right now, it's never been taught.
Oh, because
and they overlooked it.
Right, exactly. They overlooked it. It's not part of the standard core teachings, and what this creates is confusion for a lot of people. But you have to update yourself and study it yourself. Go into the Bible and use logic. Here we have GILL BROUSSARD telling us there's two events. One before, three and a half days after the Passover, okay, when the witnesses appear. And then there's another taking away, which is at the end, at the seventh trumpet, which clicks perfectly well with biblical prophecy, which should be clear as day. I mean, it should be clear as day like that. And I agree with you.
Yep. If you turn to my book on page 71.
Okay, and this is
on the actual book that they download. You should have it.
Oh, the one that says timeline, that one, or
no, the book that you download from my site says Planet 7X book.
Okay, let me go into my files. I do have it. Don't worry. Sorry about that. Coming out of this obnoxious little cold that lasted like a couple of weeks, it really hit me hard. I don't know what they're putting in. Okay, here it is.
It's the 11 by 17 book, 11 by 17 inches.
Okay.
71 page.
Hold on, it's just I gotta load it, and okay. Okay, loaded the PDF into the software so people can see it. Now I can go into the PDF itself, and well, I have 49 pages, not all of them. It just says 49 on mine.
Yeah, okay, you didn't download the latest. You probably don't have it.
Okay, so you have an updated one, right?
Yeah, it should be 71 pages.
Okay. Well, I'm here at your website, so I'll just click for Google Drive download. Is that the one?
Yeah, but I could probably send it to you right now. Let's see. You sure? Let's see.
No, it's that easy so people can see. You just go to planet7x.net. You go to the charts and you download them. This is an amazing free resource. And I'd like people to support your work much more. Okay? There's a small version. Can I download the small so I don't take up that?
That's up to you. That's all.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna send it to you on your Skype. It's there right now. It went. So you should have the file right now to show people.
Okay, it's incoming. Okay.
This one's talking about the watchman.
I got that slide. Yeah, I have it.
What their responsibility is.
Okay, it's right there. A watchman sees the sword coming upon the land, and shall blow the ram's horn, the shofar, and shall warn the people. Then whoever shall hear the sound of the ram's horn, and shall not take warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood is on his own head. And who is that sword? Is that Jesus?
Well, no, the sword is also, the tail of this comet is also called a sword in the past.
Oh, so interesting.
Okay.
A plasma sword, like the ones in Star Wars, no? Okay.
Remember in Revelation, he says, I will give you a sign in the heaven. Now, what sign is that we're looking for?
Well, the plasma tail.
Right.
Interesting. He heard the sound of the ram's horn, but he did not take warning. His blood is on himself, just like Ezekiel. Yeah, it's Ezekiel 33:3. Yeah, okay. But he who takes warning shall deliver his being. But if the watchman sees the sword coming, and shall not blow the ram's horn, and the people shall not be warned, and the sword comes and takes any being from among them, he is taken away in his crookedness, and his blood I require at the watchman's hand. So that means if you don't pay attention, there's a severe consequence you'll have to pay.
Right. So as an astronomer, it's my duty to point out when the moon is at the foot of Virgo for you to pay attention to, and sound the alarm whenever we actually sight it. So I give you the days. That's just like looking at a calendar when a full moon is, and whatever, just like you do for Passover. There's nothing wrong with that. But we won't know if it is the day until we sight it. You see? You have to have a sighting. It will look like a brand new star or comet. You can't miss it.
Okay, another thing that I want to point out to people, these are just models of incredible graphics that you've done. These are models in order to help people understand, educate them. These are valuable educational resources that you can get at Planet 7X, and also the DVDs, which are excellent. Personally, I can't wait. I'm gonna buy the new one that's coming out. The Planet 7X, the Destroyer, This Way Comes. I haven't watched that one yet. There's a 2 DVD special. I would get it for this end of the year. Share it with your friends, you know. Get into the study, you know. Get into the study. This thing is out there, and it's our responsibility to understand how all this plays and ties into biblical prophecy. Now, if you don't do it, well, you know, here's Gil saying, you know, Ezekiel 33.3, to all of you who don't pay attention, take heed. But you know what? It's been years for us to study this this object, this incoming bolide. It's been a lot of work. You know our work, and we know your work, Gil, for years now. And we understand that there's a huge awakening, but there's also a huge falling away, which saddens me. But, you know, it's curious that the places where it's all war-torn in Syria, Iraq, and other places around the world where Christians are being persecuted and decimated, a lot of people that are not Christian are becoming Christian, especially in the Muslim nations. And this is also prophetic and biblical. A great awakening is also happening in the land, which is good news in a sense.
Yep.
So we have to be positive here. And also, do you want to announce to the people that you might come out with collectible items very soon, based on the Planet 7X work that you've done?
Yes, we might have some hats and T-shirts to where people are having a hard time approaching the subject to people.
Right.
So one of the ways that we can help out on the astronomy research as well as the people wanting to reach out to other people is kind of be a bulletin sign, you know, a bulletin board.
Absolutely.
With the T-shirt, which is very good looking, with Noah's flood on the front and the Tower of Babel in the back, which are also 2 events that the planet passed and had something to do with a little patch over the pocket saying Planet 7X. People will probably go up to you and ask you, what is this about? And how is it related to the Bible? Giving you an opportunity to share good data with them on how this matches up with biblical accounts, and how it also is going to affect us in the coming years here, sometime before that generation dies out.
And also be a beacon, you know, a beacon of knowledge, because you're going to be saying, well, you know what? I'm educated. I'm an educated person who's wearing this T-shirt in order to bring this knowledge to you if you so ask me. So you can be let's say it as it is, an ambassador of sorts of the end times, with great knowledge, and covering your body as well, not only your spiritual body, but also your physical body, by wearing these amazing T-shirts and polo shirts that are going to be coming out soon. And we hope that you support this, because as you support this work, you can help fund, you know, GILL BROUSSARD's research and the other independent researchers that are supporting his work. For me, as soon as they're available, I'm going to get mine, and I'm going to be wearing this. I'm just going to say it on a constant basis. I don't want to say religiously, but because then they'll start saying that you just started a secret cult or something.
Right. Well,
but the back of the T-shirt is massive. It says Planet 7X YouTube. It says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That's Hosea. And I'm working on the translation of all these texts into Spanish so you can also bring them out in Spanish. You have a massive market with this that you could also place these products in Latin America, because a lot of people would love to wear this and pronounce it boldly. I'm ready for the end times. Bring it on.
Well, I'm hoping that the dinar will hit soon so I can translate all of these documents that I have into Spanish and other language and give it out for free. Now, in between that time, I don't have any money to be able to do this.
But
now,
Gil, here's where we get to the point.
Yeah.
We need to finance this so it can get translated. I mean, I do it, but we have this problem with the typesetting. We haven't been able to do it because of the difference in systems. But here's what we could do. If you could, I don't know how we could do it. It has to be on a Mac, because Gil has to sign everything on a Macintosh.
Well, if somebody could furnish you with a Mac, just like I said, you already got the files to where you can edit all this, and it's going to take many, many hours for you. But you can also have other people take shifts in translator where that Mac has maximum use.
Absolutely.
And then print it out for free for people.
Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to get this stuff translated. We need your support. Now, if you can support Gil, go to his website, support his research. That way he can get moving, with the rest of the project, because it's a massive project. As you can see, the work has been years in the making. And, it's about time Hollywood pays attention to this, to do really a serious, well-done Planet X movie. And I just hope and I pray that at least, somebody with the vision, Pure Flix, I don't know which company would like to invest, but Planet 7X, if it's not into the biblical end-time eschatological scenarios of movies, should also be put out there in order to educate people into its existence. Because there hasn't been a movie made of Planet X seriously, touching upon the biblical aspect of it.
That is correct. I'm not quite sure when they'd air it on TV. It might be scary.
But if you read the Bible, it's scary enough. I mean, who wants to go through the apocalypse? But we will go through it, and we will come out, as winners, victorious. And we have to have our faith and our strength in order to understand that our Lord Jesus is a very real person that loves us to death, and I mean that literally, and that He gave you, through His Holy Spirit, the speaking, a charisma. He gave you a gift. You are a gifted human being. We love you so very much, Gil. Anything else that you would like to add to the people before we do another update soon?
Yeah, just remember, there's not really a need to get scared, because He gives you a way out. He tells you where to be at the right time. Follow His dry rehearsals. Get established going to Israel for Passover and Sukkot, and then you'll be in the right place at the right time when it comes time. These are not vain religious acts that He gave us to follow for religion. This is not it. He gave you a practical reason to be in a certain place at a certain time for a certain event. Now it's no longer going to be a dry rehearsal. It's going to be a real event. And you'll know what to do if you practice these things. And we're not taught that. You have to learn Hebrew a little bit to understand that these were dry rehearsals. Just a few Hebrew words and you would know it.
Well, it resounds in our DNA. I think Hebrew is an angelic language of fire that God created. It's a language that is embedded in our DNA, whether we want it or not. And I believe that since it's encoded in our, via the Holy Spirit, when you hear Hebrew, it resounds. It resounds. You begin to understand and fall in love with the language. But you're not into that Hebrew roots movement, are you, Gil?
No, I'm into facts. Wherever the the actual proper interpretation leads me. Remember, I forgot how many different versions there are of the Bible. I have to go back, and many of them do not match science. When you go back and look up the actual Hebrew words and what it said, it's correct in its original interpretation. Every Bible makes the first claim, oh, this is the most accurate translation, period. They all say that. Go check it out. Go open up the Hebrew and check it out before you find that they're all missing something, pretty much. One of the key things that they're missing is the Aleph and Tav, where Yeshua said, I am this mystery. I am the Aleph and the Tav. You heard it, Alpha and
Omega.
Omega. Well, the New Testament wasn't written yet. He was looking at the Old Testament. So where is the Aleph and Tav and the Alpha and Omega in the Old Testament?
Psalm 119?
No, you can't find it. You got to go look it up in the actual Hebrew, because they don't translate it into English.
Okay.
It's like 4,000 to 6,000 times in the text. That's how many you're missing. 4,000 to 6,000 times. And anytime there's Elohai or Elohim, okay, Elohai is always translated into English Elohim, plural. So you don't ever see the singular version, which is stated in Hebrew. It's a rabbinical commandment not to translate it into proper English without the S on certain. Well, don't follow the rabbinical, follow the actual. No man has the right to change it. So it's important for us to know, is it plural or is it singular when it's certain things speaking?
Okay, so I'm here in Genesis with my interlinear Hebrew Bible. And you're saying that I have to go in and literally look at the document itself. And look for where it says Elohim, right?
Let me open up mine and I'll we'll see if they match. Give me one moment.
So we're going to do a biblical comparison of this tremendous book I have in front of me right here, the Interlinear Bible, Hebrew, Greek, and English. And it's literally interlinear like that. Okay,
the first line of Genesis.
Okay.
You said, in the beginning, he created Elohim. Now, what do you have after that? You should have Aleph and Tav.
No, it says, in the beginning, it says, God created the heavens and the earth.
You see that? See, I told you. That's why I go with the Leningrad. That right there, the Elohim. It's right there is Aleph and Tav. You should see. Look between the two Hebrew words between Shamuim and Elohim. You should see the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the Aleph, and then the Tav.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, 430. Yeah.
You see, they don't translate anything underneath that.
Right, it's not translated, right?
So you need one that does.
Okay.
Yeshua said, "This is him."
Wow. No, in fact, I mean, the name of Jesus is encoded in Genesis 1, and it's amazing. There's, I think, Chris Gallup is his name. It's a pastor. He did a series of videos on YouTube where they talk about the name of Jesus encoded in Genesis 1, Barashit, and he talks about the words, being encoded inside. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I understand. So there's okay, now I see it. It's the non-translated silent characters there that are not even translated. Yeah,
the Hebrews have a thing. They say, "Well, that's a pointer."
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I when I took Hebrew, I remember that. The Bible is chock full of those like separations. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the only pointer that's in anything in any particular language, and they only apply it to that one.
Well, I put the Bible up on the screen. Now let's put it in Hebrew so people can see it. And there it is. It's right here.
Yeah, we're missing great points of interest. And also, you see, like Elohim, it's even if it would to say above it in Hebrew, which it doesn't in Genesis right there, even when it says Elohai, which is singular without the M, they'll always write it plural because it's a rabbinical law. Well, I don't want man's laws. I want it what it actually says. I want it to mean what it actually says.
So they're diluting basically the biblical text into something that's more modern, but it's not exactly what it says. So therefore, we're living literally it's being misconstrued. I'm sorry, misconstrued. So people are getting not the full version.
See, one of the things is that Elohim, remember, it means actually mighty one in ancient Hebrew. This is way before the word G-O-D ever came into the text, because the Hebrews never called it G-O-D. Okay, the G-O-D came out of the Germanic language of a pagan belief. Okay, and Elohim does not mean that. It means mighty one. A king is a mighty one, a high priest is a mighty one, an angel is a mighty one, the Messiah is a mighty one, and the Father in heaven is a mighty one. But not all Elohims are G-O-D.
Okay. Right.
See,
exactly. I understand. It's like the word Lord is being used.
So these people who are writing the Bible are doing the interpreting for you to keep in line with their doctrine. You need to know, a personal individual needs to know where it actually says what. They should leave it as Elohim and Elohai, and you just need to know what the actual meaning of it means. Authority figure is what it means. Then it's left up to you by context who's speaking and about whom. You see? Don't let a religious authority create his doctrine for you to follow his belief. Follow what the original belief is. You see?
Okay.
And that and key words, just like if you put feast in front in the place of Mekra, the word actually means dry rehearsal. So you lose the entire context that the Hebrews are following a dry rehearsal before a real event takes its place. They were sacrificing a lamb, and with the whole 9 yards was a dry rehearsal to a real event when Yeshua showed up. You see?
Absolutely.
And he became the sacrifice. Otherwise, you have no. If you think it's just a party, like a feast, then you have no real reason to get up and do anything. You see, they made it mute. But if it's something that you're supposed to be rehearsing for a real event, now you have to reason and cause to get up. Remember, it's a narrow path. Remember, he said to be chosen. The path is narrow. Well, if you're on a path, you're walking. He didn't say it's a narrow bench where you're sitting. Okay?
So you got to move on, people. You got to start walking the path and get ready. So what would happen if somebody cannot make it to Israel?
Well, when it comes time, we'll all have resources. Remember, when they were in Egypt, they were slaves. They had no money. And then yet they left with wagons full of gold and silver. Make a small investment in silver as well as dinar. Those are the two best investments in the near future, not gold. Gold is overvalued. If you know anything about the value of things and what they should be, you'd see that gold is overvalued and silver is undervalued. And also the dinar is undervalued. They're sitting on a huge deposit of oil, which I think very soon, according to comments on the everything is done for them to be revaluing the dinar.
So when they revalue the dinar and Iraq is returned to a sovereign nation, basically, they will be revaluing the dinar and it will be worth its real value.
It'll be over 1,000 to 1. Anywhere from 2,000, anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 return for every dollar.
That's better than going into Bitcoin and all that stuff.
Yes, Bitcoin. Remember, it's almost no different than a fiat currency. You have a fiat digit
Exactly.
instead.
But people are like all crazy with their Bitcoin. Even Venezuela, the dictator over there that's killing off all the people, Nicolas Maduro, just came out with his own cryptocurrency called the Petro.
Right. Right.
So yeah, they're ridiculous because the day that things really shut down, I mean, no internet, no electricity. That's when people will say, "Well, what is this? Oh, it's called a Bitcoin. What is it? Well, it's just a paperweight now."
Keep in mind, if all the banks close because of the law of bail-in and everything, how do you cash out?
You can't.
If the people who are furnishing you with the money have to go get the money from the banks, but the banks are closed.
Well, the casino teller is just going to say, "I'm sorry, sir, you can't cash your chips here. The casino is now closed."
Exactly.
Yeah, they're going to close down the casinos, people. Las Vegas is going bye-bye, and you're going to be stuck with a bunch of casino chips that are worthless.
You need physical silver and physical dinar in hand. And then you wait when the time is right. You will get a huge blessing.
Well, amen to that.
And then as soon as you get your blessing, you have no excuse not to follow his rehearsal patterns.
Okay.
Get established on the computer over there that you've entered the country for these dry rehearsals.
So you have to sort your paperwork out, start getting ready for a possible trip to Israel in order to be there by what time frame until, what's like a marker point for a person that wants to get ready?
Well, for sure, you need to go at least one time before that. And I wouldn't wait the last year before because the Bible already tells us that would be seal 4, war. Well, if you wait if you wait during that, you can't go. Passenger planes are not flying into a war zone. So that only leaves the next 2 years possibly for you to better practice the Mekros. Now, somewhere between that time, I would expect the dinar to occur. You see? Because how else can his people practice something if they don't have the resources? So he will make a way, and then you don't have an excuse not to follow it. Now, keep in mind that Israel has to, when there's this mass rush to try to get on that side of the earth, they have to have some sort of filtering process to see who they're going to allow in. And what they're going to do is they're going to rely on their computer. If you're saying, well, you're there to follow the feast, they're going to look up and says, you haven't been here before. You're only panicking. Go on back home. Where the other ones who have already been there say, oh, yes, we see that you've already started. Come on in. You see?
Absolutely.
So that's why he said, get it established. It's for the male of the family to get these things established, it says. If you don't have a male in family, then the female is supposed to go. But get it established. It doesn't have to be the entire family. It's the male that gets these things established, it says. And then when the time is right, when you see it in the sky, then the whole family goes.
Okay, so man up, people. It's time to get ready. When this thing will be coming flying by is very soon. I mean, how soon? You'll see it. The events will advance towards it. You'll feel more turmoil, more rumors of war, more earthquakes in diverse places, more volcanic eruptions. You start feeling weird. Now it's shaking where it shouldn't be shaking, Gil. Now it's Africa is having earthquakes. North of Europe is having earthquakes. Poland just got hit by a 4.9. I mean, now Europe, the whole European continent is shifting. Africa is shifting. So it's happening. People are really being, parts of Mexico where it's never quaking, now it's quaking. So.
Well, remember, this thing brings with it 7 years of drought. 3.5 years as it's approaching, 3.5 years as it's leaving. It crosses Earth's path mid of the drought. So prior to 2021, if that is the year, and I did say if, We should already be right now in a global drought phase, and it'll be minor at the beginning, and it'll start to escalate. So you should see food prices starting to rise because transportation of grain on the rivers and the agricultural water that they need to grow crops will be affected.
Right.
So be on the lookout, be attentive, and watch for these things to see if they are occurring. If they are occurring, then start counting. Are we having 3.5 years of it? If we have by 2021 recorded 3.5 years of drought globally affecting food price, guess what? Then there's a high probability start looking for this object in the sky.
So then the drought, the beginning of an official drought, food shortage, and the massive increase in prices of food, crops, etc. You know what? I'm very scientifically oriented, and I do the research about solar weather and space weather and all that, and how it affects our planet. And right now, the next year and 2019, we're going into solar minimum, Gil. And what's expected is a huge rise in, since the crops are going to fail, a huge rise in prices for crops beginning in 2018 and 19. Because of all the weather events and how it's affecting, basically the polar winds are coming down to the equators now almost, and we're being hit by these. It's going to be called not a Maunder minimum. It's going to be called a minimum of an eddy minimum they call it, but it's a mini ice age, and basically all that's going to affect the crops. The food surpluses and everything are just going to be diminished. And if you want food, it's going to cost you a pretty penny.
Let me send you another slide showing.
Now, what worries me is the people that are not going to be able to have, the money to buy food or move to Israel. Because that's going to cost hefty, especially in a time of war where everything is scarce and much more expensive. So I pray that those that feel the calling might get ready and start, at least, drafting on paper and taking this research seriously. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying that if you really do feel in your heart that you need to pay attention to this research and start delving into it, do it now, because time is advancing quickly towards that end. Yeah, you sent me an image, or?
Yeah, I am right now.
Okay.
It's pertaining to the Mulder minimum and all this.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I've read that one before.
When I went back and applied it, you should have another one. You probably when I went back and applied these ice core samples showing these deep freezes and hot climates and cold climates. Mm-hmm. With the present chart we have of when it occurred, we had an exact lineup with the aphelium and the perihelium of the cycle. Furthest point and nearest point to the sun reacts, causing drastic weather pattern changes on Earth. So take a look at that last drawing I sent you. Yeah. And we have an exact parallel. You don't have this type of parallel without it being correct. There's too many points that it's hitting.
It's still downloading, trying to get this internet to work. Has anybody... Okay, here it is. Now it's... let me put it up on the screen. Okay, got it. There it is. Okay, here it is. Well, here it is. A troubling diagram. It says, okay, there it is. The Maunder minimum and the modern era, which now they call it an eddy minimum. That's the official scientific name now. And this is juxtaposed with your model of perihelion and aphelion with Planet X, right?
That is correct. Now look at the correlation there.
So you overlaid the Planet X model to this and look at the correlations. Bing, bang, it's right there. It's exactly the same events.
It's the cause and effect.
The peaks and the valleys are exactly the cause and effect of X entering our world. Wow, amazing.
So the sun getting, peaking out is an effect from what cause? The planet approaching.
So it's affecting the sun directly, and this would explain why the solar weather is so erratic right now. I mean, it's just going to be so interesting to see this, how it's going to be affecting us. But there it is. I mean, they should have this at the IPCC in the United Nations, your model.
Yeah. I wouldn't be holding my breath on that because they don't want the public to know about it. They're going to tell you that it's, climate change now is the new term.
That's amazing.
Again, science is cause and effect, and it's definitely not CO2. Okay?
No. Well, it could be CO2 from all the volcanoes going off. We got almost 3 million volcanoes in the oceans, but not all of them are going off. But at least 10,000 of them are spewing ash and whatever into the atmosphere, changing the water temperatures, and then we take into account the solar minimum. 2019 is the official date, which coincides with your 2021 model, which is something I just want to put out there. Amazing.
Keep in mind when Al Gore gave his model on global warming, he gave numbers pertaining to CO2, its increases.
Okay. Even though he lies about everything. But
but one volcano equates to all that CO2 that he mentioned. Now, how many volcanoes have we seen go off since Al Gore gave his speech?
Oh, man, there's right now on the surface of the planet, we got 48 just spewing out lava right now. Mm-hmm.
So if his data was correct, the entire Earth should be an ice cube, according to those effects, if he was even close to being right. And he's not.
He's not.
The math doesn't work out. You know how to do it.
Now wait till Popo, blows its top, or whatever other huge volcano really goes into full eruption mode. They say that it just takes 2 volcanoes, 2 massive eruptions at the same time, and we'll go into nuclear winter. Okay, so
that's an overstatement. That they're doing. Look, plant life loves CO2. It's their food.
Yeah, the trees, they absorb the CO2 and give us back oxygen.
If you throw food out, you think you're going to drown it? No, the animals will eat it. But it's the same thing with the plants. You throw food out, they'll eat more of it. What did they do in a greenhouse effect to make the plants grow quicker? They pump higher levels of CO2. It's not wasted. The plants absorb it because they love it.
And they thrive.
They thrive and they make more product. Only thing that's happened from more CO2 is your grass on your lawn is growing quicker and trees are getting greener.
I like that.
Okay. All right. So the issue at hand is the sun is flaring and burning in a different spectrum, causing Earth's core to heat up, okay, as well as human beings and plants to heat up. And what is the cause of these effects? It's not in itself. It's another body that's causing those effects to occur. It's reacting. The sun is reacting to what's approaching it because of the magnetic fields are involved, because this is a magnetic universe. The Earth is also reacting, and we see that in physical changes. We're not here saying, okay, we're going to manifest a change in Earth's orbit to Mars simply because we wanted to. No. These are physical, caused by a physical object.
So we have changes to all the planets right now, massive changes, and these changes are, affecting all of us. And Mars losing its caps, its ice caps, and then we have, Jupiter losing one of its bands, one of its bands and spots, and then Earth having these changes, the moon's changing, Saturn, a major decrease in equatorial jet system velocities in only 30 years, accompanied by surprising surge of X-rays from the equator. They have now official auroras, these weird storms on Saturn. We have on the outer planets, which are the ones that would point to anomalies coming in from X, Neptune is over 40% increase in atmospheric brightness. We have Pluto, 300% increase in atmospheric pressure. Uranus, big changes in brightness, increased global cloud activity. All this because of the incoming, right?
I thought it was just wishful thinking on people that thought Planet X was real. You don't think it's just wishful thinking?
Well, I think these are real physical objects out in the solar system, really having some massive changes. If you talk about planetary scales,
so too. I would concur. I would agree on that.
For example, Jupiter, over 200% increase in brightness of surrounding plasma clouds. That's massive. These are huge belts. I mean, Jupiter is 500 times the size of Earth. Can you imagine the changes in color, radiation, hotspot, everything? I mean, so yeah, there's something doing it to Jupiter, and it's not necessarily the sun.
Keep in mind that's the volume of Earth as well. Some people think it's diameter. That's the 500 times the volume.
Oh, it's a volume? Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
My bad, but it's still big anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, Gil. Well, it's 2 hours now, man. Time flies when you talk about Planet 7X. We have to do this soon, Gil, in order to talk about some other stuff as it pertains to Planet X. Please visit Gil's website, planet7x.net, youtube.com/planet7x. For other interviews, please contact him. Media inquiries. What's the email where they can contact you at?
Planet7x at gmail.com.
Okay, there you go. And remember, at gmail.com, let me put it here on the screen so everybody can see it and they can contact you accordingly. You're also available for speaking engagements and lectures, or you could go to anywhere.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. The only thing I ask is just from to cover my costs. That's all. I don't make a profit out of it. I give these presentations for free. So if there's a pastor or a church or a body of astronomers or both that gets together, they want to do a question and answer or a presentation, I'm open to either one, because I was a skeptic on this. It took hard evidence to change my mind, and I don't blame to have skeptics in the audience. I'm there to satisfy them with actual hard data. That's the only thing that should change a skeptic's mind is hard data.
Absolutely.
And we have it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, here's the hard data, people. It's already perturbing stuff here. Many people jumped the gun years ago, since 2003. We have a lot of people that were talking about Planet X, made it viral, created a firestorm on YouTube, and they all missed because they don't read their Bible. If they read their Bible and did what Gil has done for all of us, everything would be put in its place. Now it's an open invitation to astronomers to parallax this thing and start measuring the perturbations that it's doing to Saturn and Jupiter as it comes into our solar system from Sagittarius on the ecliptic plane. Okay, so it's that clear and simple. It's time to do the hard work, do the number crunching, start organizing yourselves, and get this project going. Contact Gil for more information about parallaxing Planet 7X, and hopefully we can get some real scientific data on board and start publishing this stuff in order to help people understand more. A blessing to you, brother. I hug you from my spot to yours. I bless you, and I'm going to be praying for you, and thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to do this interview.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Call me anytime, and I offer you, God to bless you in great, great ways for what you're doing for the people.
Amen, brother. We're going to be translating this into Spanish in due time. For those that were not able to understand, we are sorry, but this is time-sensitive information, and it also needs to get out in Spanish. We will eventually condensate this interview into Spanish so people might get the gist of it. But nonetheless, it's important to also be bilingual or trilingual. Start learning your languages, because time is of the essence. And love your neighbor, people. Love your neighbor. Share this information, and don't get lost in false information. That's the only thing that we ask you. Okay, stay abreast with and grounded in the rock, and fly high with your wings, because Jesus is coming soon to our planet Earth. Okay, thank you, Gil. We love you.
All right. Bye-bye. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Bye-bye. There you go. That was Gil Broussard on the air right here at CR News. Thank you for listening. This interview is also going to be mirrored on his YouTube channel, which is a blessing as well. Subscribe to his YouTube channel as well, Planet 7X, and stay up to date with any other further information that we are going to have. As soon as we have a confirmation, an astronomical confirmation, this channel and GILL BROUSSARD's channels are going to be the channels where this is going to be published almost in real time. So until then, thank you for watching, and I'll be in touch with all of you soon. My name is Alex Bachman, and for everybody here at CR News, have a blessed Shabbat. Bye-bye.
Conciencia Radio TV. youtube.com/Conciencia Radio. Suscríbete, danos like y comparte. Es decir, hazlo viral.